Are you in the mood for a queer fairy tale retelling that is only the favorite story of one person in the entire world and that you have probably never heard of? Are you prepared to cackle like a witch for hours? Do you like the magic system of a classic fairy tale? Well then, do I ever have the book for you. This Princess Kills Monsters by Ry Herman. This book is a retelling of The 12 Huntsmen, a fairy tale I have not read and hadn't even heard of before I read this book. But I've gotta say, I have never encountered a fairy tale more well suited for a queer retelling than this one, and you will soon learn why. But now, instead of admiring my beautiful makeup and my Pan flag-inspired outfit, you will instead get to watch me make some art about the Pan flag, because our main character is probably Pan, but reasonable people can disagree on that. Our main character retells what happened in the original story that we have all heard in the funniest way imaginable. At first, when I read it, I was like, is the whole book going to be like this? And then, please let the whole book be like this. But it's not. This style of narration only happens when a character in the book is recounting a story. I'll read you some of the text later, but for now I'll just tell you the story. A prince and a princess are engaged, the prince's father is dying, and the prince promises to fulfill the king's dying request. The king wants him to marry another woman. The prince breaks off the engagement to the woman he loves. The woman he loves assembles 11 women who look just like her. They dress up as men and go to the prince's kingdom. Well, king's kingdom now. A talking lion is convinced that the huntsmen are women and arranges a bunch of hilariously stereotypical tests to prove this. Eventually, the king recognizes his former bride and they get married. Leaving the princess the former king wanted him to marry cast aside. This story is told from her perspective. Now let me give you a feel for the writing style of the stories they tell. He had held out until his son's arrival only through sheer force of will. "My son," his father rasped, his words faint. "I am glad to see you one final time. I beg you, swear to me to fulfill my dying wish." "Of course," the prince sobbed. "Anything." "Then I ask you to marry the princess of the mountain kingdom far to the east." "I shall," the prince vowed, then added, "Wait, what?" But the king had passed into the realms beyond mortal knowledge and spoke no more. When they arrived, she had a dozen identical huntsman outfit made to their size. 11 girls changed into these clothes, and she donned the 12th outfit herself. Thus attired, she bid farewell to her father, and the women rode off together. "Goodbye," he shouted after them. "Have fun doing whatever it is you intend to do with 11 eerily similar women dressed in men's clothing." And now I just gotta read to you how the prologue ends. That is the story as it's currently told. But savvy readers may perhaps have noticed that it doesn't make a lot of sense. What exactly was the endgame of the lady's plan? What did it require finding 11 identical duplicates? What was with the gender essentialist lion? Did the king really not recognize his one true love until he noticed the ring? And what on earth did the princess from the mountain kingdom think of this? The last one, at least, is a question I can answer, because I am the princess from the mountain kingdom. But now for the retelling. This story follows Melilot, the stepdaughter to a ruthless sorceress queen. She has 2 sisters, one older stepsister and one younger half-sister. I have actually never encountered a half-sister in a fairy tale, even though there are tons of stepmothers, so that was refreshing. The story starts with Melilot trying to complete yet another magical quest set by her stepmother. She is really tired and is struggling with a riddle from two swingses that she definitely should know the answer to. She is about to get eaten when her sisters save her with the help of a dragon and a bunch of forest animals. This is a pattern for Melilot, struggling to complete a task only to be rescued by her much more gifted sisters. Let me just emphasize that there is no animosity between the sisters. They are not wicked in any way, and they genuinely love each other. There is not much favoritism going on from the queen either. It's just insecurities from Melilot because her sisters are powerful sorceresses and she just grows her hair when she's stressed. Anyway, Melilot is summoned to the queen. It is declared that she will be married to a king. They speculate that he can't be aware of Melilot's limitations as a sorceress. Melilot is not thrilled about this, but reminisces about the last time she disobeyed her stepmother, and reflects that she doesn't want to know what she'll do this time. Melilot gets to the kingdom, and it is clear that she was chosen to help with the kingdom's monster problem, and that they very much expected a powerful sorceress from Scala's notoriously powerful royal line. She has two love interests, but one is much more developed, and if there wasn't for one little factor that I'll get into in the spoiler section of this review, I would have been absolutely certain that they would end up together. All in all, this was an amazing read. The writing was so funny, and the book was packed with so many delightful fairy tale references. The romance was cute. The only thing negative I have to say about it was that there wasn't enough Liam. Now for the spoilers, and me fangirling about how great this was. First, I am really dumb. About halfway through the story, I silently reflected that, isn't there a rule that you have to introduce the villain by now? Without immediately concluding, we have already met the villain. So I was genuinely shocked when the villain was revealed. Although I really shouldn't have been, because there was basically only two contenders for the villain spot. And I am so happy Melilot didn't end up with her, because right up until the reveal, I found her so boring. Melilot is probably pansexual, and up until the reveal that Sam was trans, I was worried that the author wouldn't have the guts to make her pansexual female lead in a queer romance book end up with a cis man. I don't know why that was a concern of mine, since I knew it was a retelling of a fairy tale about women dressing up as men, and that obviously meant that Sam was either non-binary, a trans man, or plain woman. Another thing I really should have figured out was Melilot being Rapunzel. I saw her unnatural hair growth and just thought, this is a fairy tale quirk, some people just have this. And that she's like Rapunzel. But no, she wasn't like Rapunzel, she was Rapunzel. But with a better name. If you don't remember, Melilot is the daughter of two healers, and when her mother got sick during her pregnancy, she needed a medicinal plant that can only be found in the Queen's Forbidden Garden. Her father got it for her, but got caught, and the Queen demanded the baby as a compensation. What I love about Melilot's backstory is that it makes so much more sense than Rapunzel's. The parents are smarter because why would you go into a witch's garden to just get letters from a pregnancy cravings? Here is genuinely she will die if she doesn't get this medicinal plant. And it also paints the evil witch queen or whatever in a much better light. Because the queen really acts more like an eager aunt than an evil queen. And she doesn't really take Melilot away from her parents. Melilot's mother dies, and her father remarries the queen. Melilot doesn't really seem to have any legitimate reason to hate her stepmother for most of her life, and only does so because her biological mother didn't like the queen. And the tower really only seems to be an attempt to force Melilot to grow into the sorceress the queen knows she can be. And the dead prince was the enemy leader of the army trying to invade them, and he only seduced Melilot to gain an advantage. It was also Melilot that informed the queen that this was what was going on. So she really wasn't some victim in this. Well, she was a victim of being seduced by a man who had ulterior motives, but yeah, I don't think she cared that much when the queen killed him. After getting that story, I really thought the evil stepmother was just misunderstood. Then I remember that she used her eldest daughter as a pawn to settle a dispute between the fairies and her, and let her get beheaded, so she's really more morally grey than anything. And let me just say, I love the eldest daughter's fiancé. She is in murder mode every waking second, and we have evidence to believe that she is murderous every sleeping second as well, and it is so funny. Melilot's half-sister is a gem, and is basically a Disney princess. Her husband, Liam, is my favorite minor character in this book. He pretended to be a prince so he could enter a competition to win the hand of Scala of Scala. She helped him cheat hard. He really seems to be one of those smart lads from fairy tales that get by on tricks, and a running gag in the story is that he always has some random thing in his pocket that is exactly what the situation needs. He was probably a tailor, as all the three girls know, but he still insists that he is a prince, and it's really cute. And I really like the last line of the book. It didn't feel like I was walking into happily ever after. Not exactly. Those are reserved for the ends of stories, and this was the beginning. So this was This Princess Kills Monsters by Ry Herman, a genderqueer bisexual who has a book coming out in November 26th, that the book cover looks very similar to this one. It doesn't seem to be the follow-up in a series, but I have a suspicion that it's set in the same world, and I will definitely be reading it regardless. So stick around for that.